I'll give a quick announcement in Spanish. Si hay alguien en la audiencia que quiera recibir servicios de interpretación, puede pasar por aquí por la mesa y le haremos entrega de los dispositivos para escuchar el taller en persona. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us in this in person and virtually for this public budget workshop. This workshop is also hosted in Spanish. For those in person, please go to the table in the back. For those in virtual attendance, there's a globe icon near the hand feature on the screen. Our interpreters this evening are Gabriela Ayom, Lina Escribano, Gilberto Del Campo, Angela Thielen. Thank you all for your time and services today. So for this evening's workshop, in the proposed city budget, our departments have held steady in maintaining current services and staffing levels. We've been mindful of expenditures. Let's see, I'll take one step back because I will introduce myself as Justin Murphy. I'm the city's city manager. So with the proposed budget, we've been mindful of expenditures for this coming year and have promoted efficiency as much as possible across our operations. And we've significantly limited the number of new service level enhancements that require additional funding. With this, the proposed budget still presents a deficit, largely due to a variety of revenue issues that you will hear about this evening. The city budget is a living document, and I expect that revisions will take place during the fiscal year as we respond to changing circumstances. Tonight, you'll have a chance to learn more about the services, programs, staffing, and budgets across all city departments and learn about our capital improvement program. I encourage you to participate in the public hearing on the budget at the City Council meeting on June 11th to share feedback and comments to the City Council. So thank you again for being here this evening, either in person or online. And with that, I'll pass it off to our Assistant Administrative Services Director, Jared Hansen.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today. I'm Jared Hansen, the Assistant Administrative Services Director, and I am excited for this budget workshop today to present some wonderful things that are happening in each of the departments. So tonight, our agenda, we're going to be going over the overall budget process. We're going to talk a little bit about how we navigate through our OpenGov transparency portal to view that budget. We're going to review some of the proposed budget overviews. And then each department's going to have a chance to talk a little bit more about their individual budgets and initiatives and the exciting things that are happening in their departments. And then we'll talk about the next steps in the budget process and open up for questions. So first off, I just want to thank the overall budget team for the hard work that they've done in getting us to this point, as well as the contributors to the budget, which are the next slide. I think we missed one, but that's all right. I'm going to go back and just start through city budgeting. So first off, the city operates on a fiscal year that runs from July 1st through June 30th and has two types of budgets. The first is our annual operating budget. This is the day-to-day activities of the city. It is a single year budget. And then we also have our capital improvement plan, or the CIP budget. And this is a 5-year plan that addresses the city's infrastructure needs. A little bit more about the operating budget. And this is next slide, please. There we go. The operating budget focuses on the provision of city services. This is such things as public safety, recreation services, as well as the internal support for city staff. And each department's and programs budget contributes to the overall operating budget and the levels of services that the City Council has directed. The capital improvement plan, the CIP, again, 5-year plan, ensuring that the city's infrastructure is able to meet the needs and priorities of the community, These are things such as the recreation facilities, the roads, the transportation, as well as the city's municipal water enterprise. This 5-year CIP plan is reevaluated and reprioritized each year as the budget is developed. To help further the budget, it is organized at the fund level, the department level, and then by revenue and expenditure type. You can kind of see the little pyramid showing that it goes down to a little bit more granular level as you dive into each of those areas in more detail. The general fund is the largest and most active of those funds, and this is the primary operating fund for the city. And that's kind of what the focus of most of the budget discussion we'll have tonight is, but there are other funds that are available online to look at as well. So just a little bit about the annual budget cycle. Again, we run on the fiscal year where the new year begins in July. Through the July through September, we review prior years and start preparing our annual comprehensive financial report. October through December, continuing the budget monitoring to make sure that we have spending according to plan. And as we get into the January and February timeframe, we do a mid-year budget review or budget update. Because the budget is that living, breathing document, we do expect to bring changes, and as the city manager already mentioned, that will happen in that timeframe. In March, the city council has a goal-setting workshop that helps provide us direction on the budget initiatives for the year. And in the April through May timeframe, that's when we develop our operating and CIP budgets based on the city council's direction, as well as hold this budget transparency workshop. And we open our transparency portal. We're excited about that as well. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And then in the June timeframe, we hold the budget public hearing as well as the budget adoption meetings. Just a little bit more on the cycle for the budget process. Department budget requests go into the budget that is gathered by the finance department and finance division and presented to the city manager, who recommends to the city council the budget. The community then has the opportunity to provide budget feedback to the city council members, both through email, through the budget public hearings, through the budget public adoption. And this meeting that we're doing today is kind of the kickoff for that. There's lots of opportunities for the community to make input and to provide council with further directions. And one of the things we're very excited about is the budget transparency portal and the online budget book. And to talk about that, I have interim budget and finance manager, Ronnie Singh.
Thank you, Jared. So the fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget is available online for inquiry and review by members of the community. You can visit menlopark.gov/budget and click on fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget online. Once you're on the page, you can navigate between the introduction, budget discussion, department summaries, capital improvement plan. The budget navigation menu at the bottom of each section provides direct links to help you explore the proposed budget. The dynamic online financial reports are also available to explore via the homepage by clicking on the menu and Open Gov. When you're navigating to the portal this way, it will take you to the current fiscal year. In July, you will be able to see the new budget for this upcoming fiscal year. These reports allow users to view and download financial data by a number of categories, including funds, departments, revenues, and/or expenditures by fiscal year. Next, we'll dive more into the 24-25 proposed budget overview, and back to Jared.
Thank you for that. Got to remember to unmute there. Thank you for that overall summary on the budget book online that is available now as we speak. That has been made live, so it is available now for the community members, and we'll talk more about that link here in a little bit. But first thing on the proposed budget, as we look at the general fund, the proposed general fund budget currently results in a deficit of about $818,000. Again, as the city manager mentioned, a lot of that is because of some reduced or lost revenues, and those are some of the big challenges that we faced this year as we looked at the budget. First off, the big one or some of the big ones. We did have the ARPA funds, or the American Rescue Plan Act funds. They were fully expended in fiscal year 23-24. That means that there is a loss of an additional 3.7 million subsidy that helps to stabilize the general fund in prior years. In addition, we have our vehicle license fee. That shortfall is anticipated to be about $2 million. And I know we did a presentation on that a few weeks ago, but that's about 2 to 3% of the general fund. And again, that's another shortfall that we're anticipating where we don't have that revenue. Third item is our utility users tax. That annual revenue loss is about $1.7 million, again, about 2% of the general fund. And we don't have that revenue anymore to count on. And finally, the other big challenge that we're facing right now is that sales tax is about $1.5 million lower than prior fiscal years. This is due mainly to a slower economy, as well as how the allocation of prior year taxes and the county's overall pool is managed. On the expenditure side for the budget, the largest expense for the city is going to be personnel. And currently we have 292.5 full-time equivalent positions, of which the general fund supports almost 84% of that city staff. And as we look at that, one of the major assumptions that was built into the budget is our vacancy and turnover rate. This takes into account the current vacant positions as well as the natural turnover of employees. And this is factored into the budget at about 13%. In addition to that, we've also included the transfer to the CIP fund at $3.2 million to help fund those capital improvement projects, as well as continuing to fund the CalPERS unfunded actuarial liability payment of $1.1 million to help amortize on the 15-year schedule that council has directed us. Those are some of the big challenges as we faced this year on the budget, and thankfully, we were able to get the deficit down to a very small, manageable amount, $818,000, and we're really excited that we made it that far from where we were at. So we'll turn it over now to Assistant City Manager Stolte, and he'll take on the City Council priorities.
Great, thank you, Jared. Every year, the City Council holds an annual goal-setting workshop. This is a forum to receive public input, to prioritize projects, and to set goals for the next fiscal year. And you can see the top 4 goals that were selected for 2024-25 on the screen. They are climate action, emergency and disaster preparedness, housing, and safe routes. So now I would like to give an overview of just some of the activities and programs that support the City Council's top goals, and we will start with climate action. There are many activities on this slide. They are related to electrification of buildings in the community, our city facilities, and transportation. The city is launching a large home electrification program in the Bellhaven neighborhood. We are waiving permit fees for electrification projects for residents. We're rapidly upgrading our city facilities, and just so much more. Under the goal of emergency and disaster preparedness, the city hired an emergency preparedness coordinator. This is a new position, and he is already hard at work analyzing emergency plans and evaluating training needs for city staff. The Bellhaven Community Campus opened as a new emergency shelter location, and we continue to partner with other agencies like Menlo Fire and organizations. To support housing, the city reached a major milestone with the certified housing element, and now staff are focused on implementation. One big project is the development of affordable housing on downtown parking plazas owned by the city. The city will also be completing updates to the environmental justice element and the safety element this year. And of course, we will continue to process development projects and provide city funding for affordable housing. And then finally, to advance safe routes, we are happy to announce the adoption of our Vision Zero action plan to eliminate all traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2040. And there is so much more. There are projects to implement safety upgrades on our roadways and further expand multimodal networks throughout the city, as well as significant collaboration with other agencies, most especially our local schools. So there is a lot of progress happening on top goals in our community.
Awesome, thank you. I think there's some great things that we have for our council priorities this year. And to help dive into a little bit more of those, we're going to talk about each of the departments' budgets. There are a total of 6 departments in the city, and those 6 departments have a number of accomplishments that they've been able to, things that they've been able to achieve over the past year, as well as some initiatives and budget that they have coming up in the next year. And to start with, we're going to go with general administration, and we're just going to follow the line over.
So I have the pleasure of presenting general administration, and under this department, we have the city council, the city attorney's office, and the city manager's office, which includes the city clerk, public engagement and communications, sustainability, and economic development. Overall, this is the department that's responsible for policy, legal, and management services for the entire city. Our proposed budget for next year is $11.9 million, and we are supported by 18 full-time staff. And I would like to highlight, we have over $2.2 million in grant funding for sustainability. And just to give you some highlights from the current fiscal year, we have filled 3 key positions: our public engagement manager, our sustainability manager, and that new position, the emergency preparedness coordinator. We filled 21 vacancies on advisory bodies, and with staff across all departments engaged in emergency preparedness and response services during the winter storms and power outages. And that included providing timely safety messages to the public as well. The City Council adopted the Streeteries Outdoor Dining Program. Staff are currently processing permit applications. And I am excited to share that the city is participating in the Peninsula Clean Energy Program that allows us to install solar panels on 4 city facilities at no cost. We also electrified 11 water heaters at our facilities, again at no cost, through program with PG&E. And then finally, to implement the zero emission landscape ordinance, staff are providing vouchers to both residents and businesses to help with the transition. Next fiscal year, you will hear many of the same themes in our initiatives. I'd like to highlight that we will be continuing our work with our partners countywide to advance equity initiatives and expand training for more city staff. The other thing we're doing is encouraging our staff to grow professionally and as an organization be strategic about cultivating leaders and ensuring that staff are ready to take on new challenges when they arise. And like I said before, we will be updating emergency plans, but we'll also be evaluating and outfitting our physical emergency operations center. And very importantly, making sure that every city staff person understands their role as a disaster service worker and is trained and prepared to offer emergency response services to our community when it's needed. We will continue implementing streeteries and promoting economic development citywide, and staff will be sharing updates on the implementation of our $4.5 million state funded program for community-wide electrification on a regular basis, and that program lasts through 2026. And then one final highlight is that the city is at the midpoint of its 10-year climate action plan. So staff, the Environmental Quality Commission, and the City Council will also consider updating the scope of work for the climate action plan. And this is based on changing conditions and new programs for that last 5 years, which are going to be very critical to getting us to carbon neutrality. So thank you. Back to you, Jared.
Thank you. I now have the pleasure of doing Administrative Services Department. So first off, this is our wonderful Administrative Service Department team, and we're very excited to be providing services for the city. The Administrative Services team consists of 4 different divisions, and our job is to make sure that other departments have the tools and resources that they need in order to serve the community. We do that through finance, human resources, information technology, and then solid waste administration. And we do that with a small budget of $11.1 million and 29.48 FTEs. A couple of things that we were able to do in the past year that we are very excited about. We achieved the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association for our fiscal year 22-23 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And we expect to receive that as well for the fiscal year that was for the 21-22 Comprehensive Financial Report. We expect that for the 22-23 report as well. In the HR division, they were able to successfully negotiate 2 union contracts and MOUs and start an additional one. They also have launched the new employee orientation program as they've continued their recruitment efforts and been able to hire a number of new employees. And some of the pictures that you'll see here are of some of those new employees that were able to go through the new employee orientation. A lot of new employees coming on board in the city, and we're very excited about that. In the IT division, the big accomplishment there is working on the IT infrastructure for our new Bellhaven Community Campus, getting that up and running, as well as making sure that they've enhanced the technological infrastructure and enterprise-wide applications overall for the city. For the solid waste division, we were awarded $92,000 in a CalRecycle grant. That is to help implement the state's organic laws. We've held 3 compost giveaway events and an e-waste collection event. These were the first time since 2020, so very excited that we were able to do that. As we look into the future in 24-25, we are going to continue in finance, preparing the annual comprehensive financial reports and budgets, as well as working on the cost of service study and making sure that we provide financial transparency across the board. HR is going to continue in their recruitment efforts in filling those vacant positions, as well as supporting employee retention, complete the negotiations for the additional unions and MOUs, as well as developing additional staff training and benefit improvements. The IT division is going to be working on the implementation of the IT master plan and continuing to improve the cybersecurity and streamlining their processes. Very excited on that as well with the IT master plan and updating and preparing the new plan going forward. For solid waste, the big items here are working with that compost and mulch requirement laws for the water efficient landscaping ordinances, reducing the number of non-compliant businesses in multifamily dwelling units, as well as participating with the outreach and education program at the county to let everybody know about the importance and benefits of compost. And finally, for solid waste, continuing to implement the rate assistance program, which provides discounts on residents' Recology and Menlo Park municipal water bills. And that kind of finishes the Administrative Services Department. I'll turn that over to Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Jared. I'm Deanna Chum, the Director of Community Development, and I have the pleasure of providing the overview of the Community Development Department's proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. So the Community Development Department is responsible for ensuring a sustainable and vibrant community that supports a high quality of living for residents, businesses, and visitors. The core services performed are across 3 functional areas, so that's planning, building, and housing. The planning team engages in both long-range and current planning activities. Long-range planning focuses on the development and maintenance of policies, regulations, and programs primarily related to land use. The city's general plan, zoning ordinance, and El Camino Round downtown specific plan are examples of these long-range planning documents. Current planning is long-range planning's counterpart and is primarily responsible for development review and responding to general land use questions. Planners review development projects for compliance with city codes and regulations. The building team provides a suite of services that support the development review process. These include plan checking for compliance with building codes, permit issuance, and construction inspections. And then the housing team supports and administers the below market rate housing program and the implementation of housing initiatives. We are a small but mighty team of 35 FTE across all 3 teams, with about equal staff in planning and building, and then a smaller subset of 3 staff members in the housing team. We are proposing no major changes in this upcoming fiscal year. Our staffing resources are also augmented by contract services, and this help supports our technical work such as plan checking, and we can also then respond to demand for services such as building inspections or help maintain a level of service in times of vacancies. The department's revenues are typically generated by development review and building permit fees, which tend to be cost recovery for these services. Revenues can also include fees such as the below market rate housing fees, which are collected on certain non-residential projects based on use and size. These fees, however, are restricted and only can be used to support affordable housing programs. The proposed budget anticipates a decrease in revenue from last year, given an anticipated decrease in development activity. While there are a number of development projects in the pipeline, a majority of them are not anticipated to be issued building permits this year. In addition, we do not anticipate receipt of any BMR fees during this fiscal year, as are typically paid during the time of building permit issuance. And finally, overall department expenses are generally to remain the same as the previous fiscal year, with a reduction in contract services and planning and building to reflect the anticipated decrease in development activity. However, we do see an increase in the housing budget, and these are to accommodate 2 programs that the City Council approved, and that's for housing rehabilitation, which accounts for the greatest change in the department's budget. So to highlight a number of accomplishments, some of them which are already mentioned here, the first being the certification of the city's housing element, which is the city's plan to address the housing needs of the community and the city's regional housing need allocation of approximately 3,000 units. The housing element was one of the City Council's top priorities, and it's quite of an accomplishment that only half of the jurisdictions in San Mateo County have a certified housing element. Accompanying the work on the housing element was the implementation of a number of housing programs, which include increasing zoning in the El Camino Downtown Specific Plan area and strengthening the city's affordable housing overlay zone. Concurrent with the work of the housing element was the preparation of the city's first environmental justice element and update to the safety element. We recently concluded 2 workshops earlier this month and will be conducting study sessions with the Planning Commission this upcoming Monday on June 3rd and with the City Council on June 18th. And we invite you to participate in these meetings. And one of the photos, the bottom photo there that you see, was from our recent environmental justice element workshop in the Bale Haven neighborhood. Housing activities continue to be a major focus of our work. We conducted the city's first housing resource fair, which you can see from the first picture up on the screen. And the city committed approximately $8 million to preservation of affordable housing, which included partnerships with Rebuilding Together and Habitat for Humanity for rehabilitating homes for qualified households in the Bellhaven neighborhood. And then we are continuing our work with the Samaritan House to administer the city's housing assistance program. Continuing on for highlights of our accomplishments, our building team had a very busy year with issuing building permits of almost 2,000 building permits and the completion of approximately 9,600 inspections. We also saw 2 large development projects completed, Menlo Mid-Penn's Gateway Rising, a 140-unit affordable housing development, which had its grand ribbon cutting last Friday. And then last fall, we also welcomed Menlo Park's newest hotel, Citizen M, in the Bayfront area next to the Meta campus. On the screen there, you can see sort of the private open space on the backside of Gateway Rising, which is very lovely. And then the bottom picture is one of our newest housing developments. It is that's still under construction, but it's one of our newest housing developments, Visara, which is formerly called Menlo Portal. So in the coming days and weeks, we will see the opening for occupancy of both Loom, which is formerly known as Menlo Uptown, and Menlo Portal Visara in the Bayfront area. And this will add approximately 776 residential units to the housing stock, which includes 115 affordable housing units. For the upcoming fiscal year, the Community Development Department remains focused on initiatives that will advance several of the City Council's goals. One of the City Council's top priorities is housing, and the team will prioritize Thank you. The city, so one of the City Council's top priorities is housing, and the team will prioritize implementation of housing element programs. I think Stephen mentioned a little earlier, so work on development of affordable housing on the city-owned parking lots. We are preparing the anti-displacement strategy, and we are working to update the city's below-market housing program guidelines. These were prioritized by the City Council at their goal-setting session in March, And staff also anticipates releasing another round of funds from our BMR program for the preservation and production of affordable housing. Staff will finalize work on the environmental justice and safety elements following the upcoming study sessions, and we anticipate bringing that for review by the Planning Commission and City Council by the end of this calendar year. The processing of large development projects will continue, including a review of the 60-acre Parkline mixed-use master plan development at the SRI campus, a 100% affordable housing proposal at the former Flood School site, a 112-unit residential development at 3705 Haven Avenue, and several life science projects on O'Brien Drive. In total, this would approximate 1,000 residential units and approximately 1.3 million square feet of non-residential square footage. And much of the work that community development does requires partnerships with other teams. We are excited to be working with our partners in the sustainability team to collaborate on climate action, and we will continue to collaborate them in this upcoming fiscal year. Most recently, the City Council approved the continuation of the building permit fee waiver and credit program, and our department is looking forward to advancing these initiatives. And with that, I will close out community development and hand it over to Sean Reinhart, the Library and Community Services Director.
Thank you, Deanna, and good evening. Maybe I'll start by stating the obvious, which is that Menlo Park is a really exceptional community. It's a wonderful place to live, to work, to learn, play, exercise, celebrate, to thrive. Here's a picture from our recent grand opening of the Belhaven Community Campus. This is the senior folklorico dancers. I will move into a discussion about our department and our budget, which I'm very happy to be here to do tonight. Our department encompasses a diverse array of lifelong learning and recreational opportunities for Menlo Park's residents of all ages, abilities, and lived experiences. As you can see on the list on the left, that includes public libraries, recreation centers, sports fields, preschool programs, after-school programs, youth camps. We have a senior center. We do community events. We also partner with local business to operate aquatics programs. We do that through skilled and qualified personnel, as well as contracted help, dedicated volunteers, and public-private partnerships. Our department uses these guiding principles, which are informed by direction and feedback we received from the City Council on a few different occasions to provide our services and infrastructure that contribute to quality of life for all Menlo Park residents, that includes all residents, that lifts up all members of our community in an equitable manner. As shown here, I won't read all of these principles, but they are very much a part of everything that we do. Just to itemize the number of physical facilities that our department is responsible for operating, although we are close partners with Public Works, who we will hear from in a moment about maintaining those facilities. But operationally, this includes the Arriaga Family Gymnasium, the Arriaga Family Gymnastics Center, which is a very special and kind of unique center in our region, the Arriaga Family Recreation Center, the Belhaven Child Development Center, which is a preschool, the Belhaven Community Campus, which I'll talk about a little bit more in detail here, Burgess Pool, Menlo Children's Center, which is another preschool, and the Menlo Park Library. Now, the Belhaven Community Campus actually combines 5 previously separate facilities into one multi-generational community campus, quite innovative, really incredible achievement for this community. That includes the Belhaven Library, Belhaven Pool, Belhaven Youth Center, which is an after-school and summer camp program, the Menlo Park Senior Center, and the Onetta Harris Community Center. So pretty large kind of a list of facilities to operate and programs to deliver. We do that. Currently, what's proposed is 68.25 budgeted FTEs. Our department is consistently focused on the efficient use of public resources to deliver those excellent experiences to our community. We're always focusing our resources on where we can serve our community best. This particular proposal here actually achieves a 1.0 FTE reduction over the current fiscal year through attrition, eliminating a vacant provisional position that's related to an expiring grant in our preschool division. So we're actually going down 1 FTE this year. You can see our revenues. Our projection is $7.4 million in the upcoming fiscal year, and we're projecting expenses of $17.9 million. A couple more pictures here, excuse me. that this is a behind the ribbon shot of the grand opening of Bellhaven Community Campus. These are the folks assembled to see the occasion. This was just very recently, so I thought it would be good to share a couple photos here. Here's a community market that was part of the festivities that day. Here's one of the performances. This dance troupe is really great. There they are in the new gymnasium at the Bellhaven Community Campus. Just to talk about some of our highlights, you just saw some photos of them opening the Bellhaven Community Campus was a major highlight this year for the community, a multi-year project that's come to fruition. Started with a vision a long time ago, and now it's real, and you can go visit it 7 days a week. We also completed a multi-year process to select a public-private aquatics operator for the Burgess Pool, as well as the new Bellhaven Pool. As part of opening the Bellhaven Community Campus, we created, with City Council's direction, an innovative hyperlocal resident fee that prioritizes neighborhood residents' access to facilities and programs within the service area of the BHCC. Along the way, we produced multiple large-scale community events and observances. We also secured external resources from grants, volunteers, charitable donations, and partnerships to enhance services to the community, but also keeping in mind that those should be in greater value than the costs of actually acquiring those external resources. We also remained focused on operating an efficient and effective department that responds to changing community needs and meets our goals within the resources that are available. And then looking ahead, you'll see some carryover here. We continue to be focused on efficiency, meeting our service delivery outcomes within our budget, always engaging in robust, transparent, two-way communication and outreach with our community on the whole, and also with specific interest groups and user groups to really continue to refine and inform our services. Looking at using statistics, data, analyses, other like just hard data to kind of inform decisions about our services and programs. Really, this upcoming year in particular, but always focused on providing high quality neighborhood-oriented services at Bellhaven Community Campus that really kind of meet the vision that we all have as a community for that amazing new center. This year, we are embarking with City Council's support and direction, an analysis of our preschool programs, enrollment trends, and preparing some options for consideration. There have been some changes in the trend since the pandemic that have been somewhat persistent, so we want to take a deeper dive on that this year. We also, kind of referencing back to some of Stephen's comments earlier about emergency preparedness, continue to ensure that our facilities are resilient and that we're prepared for emergencies and relief activities for our community if and when those emergencies occur. We want to continue to practice environmental sustainability and energy efficiency in all of our operations. And in particular this year, the Bellhaven Community Campus was constructed to LEED Platinum certification standards. There's some actual operations that have to occur in order to finally achieve that certification, and we're really focused on getting that. And also this year, we want to begin the process of exploring professional accreditation for our department programs, of specifically the recreation programs, the childcare programs, and the library program. And that's kind of the overview of our department. Here's a view of the Arriaga Family Recreation Center. And I think I'm going to pass back to Jared for the next, or I can just turn it straight over to our Chief of Police, Dave Norris, who I believe is joining us online. And there he is.
I am. Thank you, Sean. And first of all, to council and community, apologies. As you all know, I much prefer to be in person for these things. However, travel has taken me away, so I'll be doing this remotely today. So Judy, let's go ahead and go to the first slide. So just an overview of the police department. There are 4 distinct division areas within the department for our budgeting purposes. The first and largest being our patrol services, which includes the officers that you see out on the street every day, as well as our traffic unit and our parking unit. Those all operate out of patrol. And then our investigations team, which actually is termed special operations, that includes our detectives, as well as our problem-oriented policing unit, school resource officer, and we've also allocated our code enforcement over into that division, because we know that code enforcement and Problem-oriented policing often go hand in hand, and so they work very closely together. We have a records and dispatch division that also includes our property and evidence storage. So all of the phone calls that come into the department for dispatch to our officers, the call takers, and the dispatch center is under that division, as well as the records folks who process all the documentation that our officers do on the street and handle Public Records Act requests and other heavy lifts for data processing that have become, as you all know, over the last few years, more and more complex. And then we also have our administration division, which is rather broad, and it covers our training, our human resources liaison, our recruiting and hiring and onboarding process. Also includes a portion that oversees complaints and investigation of our complaints, and all the things that are kind of behind the scenes that you may not see but are crucial for proper function of a police department. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Judy. So our fiscal year 24-25 budget, 25.5 million is our operating budget. That includes 69.5 budgeted full-time employees, their full-time equivalents. I wanted to make sure that we're clear about kind of where the personnel costs and the operating costs lay out, as well as the amount that's dedicated to overtime, because I know that those questions are often asked of us. And it's important to note that over 80% of our budget is dedicated to personnel costs, contractual obligation to salaries, the operating costs, you know, the behind the scenes, the purchasing of things, the technology, some of the technologies that we utilize, some of the day-to-day operational needs come out of that remaining 18%. Our department-wide overtime is a $1.9 million portion of the budget, and 1.3 million of that is in patrol. I think it's also important to note that there's a significant chunk of that overtime that's also part of contractual obligation for certain types of pay or certain embedded overtime for, say, you know, some of our longer shifts. So just want to give you a picture of how that budget kind of operates. The next slide, please. And we only have a couple of service level enhancements that we've been looking at. We're trying to be conservative, as we know that this is a very tight budget this year. But we have currently a person assigned in our overnight parking enforcement position that is a part-time benefited position. We actually have a second position that is a per diem position, and both of those positions will be doing exactly the same thing, and we're asking the same of both of them. We're in the early stages of setting up a recruitment for that position, and so the prudent thing for us to do would be to make sure that we're offering the same level of part-time benefits for both of those positions that still operate overnight doing parking enforcement for all of our communities. So that's one of the things that's an enhancement. The other is, and this is topical from just a few weeks ago, flock fixed license plate readers. That will be an ongoing cost over the next couple of years of $112,500. There is an implementation cost that we are going to cover through existing grant funding that we won't burden the city's general fund on, and so that $112,500 is an enhancement in this current budget. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So some accomplishments and highlights for us. We've done a number of enhancements to the quarterly report. We have, added in quarterly updates on Racial Identity Profiling Act. That's in excess of what we're required to provide. We want to make sure that we're giving you more frequent updates. We've added complaint closures to our complaints section in the quarterly. We've added the military equipment component. Again, we're required to do annual reporting on that, which you'll see in an upcoming meeting, but we want to be more frequent than that for our community. And that overall quarterly report now includes 7 distinct metrics that we're providing now on a regular basis, much more frequently than an annual report. And I will also note that with great collaboration from other members of our city organization team, we're also now providing that quarterly report in both English and Spanish. We have a wellness initiative that is an ongoing initiative for us. There's a good portion of this that is grant funded, and we actually work together with Atherton and East Palo Alto Police Departments to grant fund a full-time wellness coordinator for our department. We know that the long hours and the minimum staffing needs and overtime, and quite frankly, all of the things that police officers see on a daily basis can weigh heavily on our personnel. And if we're not well on the inside, that impacts our ability to be well in our connection and our interaction with our community. So wellness is very important. That wellness coordinator operates in a coordinated way to work with all three agencies' personnel to provide them with nutrition guidance, physical exercise guidance, overall wellness and resiliency guidance, as well as the robust peer support team that we continue to add to the team, as well as add to the skills that they have, trying to provide the best support to our department that we can. Reducing the carbon footprint has been something that we've been committed to during my tenure here over the last 3 years plus. It is important to note that between the hybrid vehicles that we are putting out, most of our patrol vehicles are hybrid vehicles, and the electric vehicles that we're piloting in patrol, as well as in our unmarked fleet, we are 75% hybrid or electric or very, very low emissions with the vehicles that are added to our fleet. And we're committed to staying the course with that. Next slide, please. Recruitment and retention is something that we will be constantly looking at industry-wide. That is something that that is a challenge for all policing agencies right now. We have added a number of police officers, many of whom are still currently in our field training program, dispatchers, records personnel, community service officers, and we will be continuing to add to make sure that we stay up to our allotted field full-time equivalents in all of those categories. I just wanted to make a note for reference for the council and for the community. You know, we are not asking for any full-time equivalent positions in this current budget. We're asking for that one part-time benefited. But when we do ask, we need to be prudent about asking in due time to make sure that we are fulfilling those needs. And that means that we need to project out those needs well in advance. 12 to 14 months is what it takes for a police officer to get to solo patrol, from the moment that they knock on the door and say, hey, I want to be a police officer with Menlo Park, to the time that they actually come off of training and can get certified for solo patrol. It's a significant period of time. And similar timing for a dispatcher, from the time of recruitment to the time that they're solo and available to take the vacant position in dispatch is 10 to 14 months. It's a significant period of time. So when we need those positions, we're going to ask you well in advance for them. Police record specialist to a solo specialist is 4 to 8 months, still a very significant period of time, and also a community service officer recruit to up to 8 months to get them on board into solo operation within our department. So we want to ask for those things well in advance. Again, not this year, but in upcoming years. We also have joined the initiative countywide for the Community Wellness Crisis Response Team pilot program. As you know, there are 4 agencies in our county. The 4 larger agencies have had an embedded mental health clinician that they've been using, working side by side with police officers in a co-responder model. That is in its final stages of, we've identified an individual. We have to put them through a background because they're going to be working side by side with our personnel. We're very close to getting through that process, and we should be in the onboarding process within this fiscal year prior to the start of the next. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Judy. All right, and initiatives for this coming year, again, focusing on recruitment and retention. of all of our staff members. We are doing okay, but we still have some gaps that we need to fill. We still have some staffing needs that are burdensome to our officers, our dispatchers. And so we need to continue with that recruitment and retention focus. Support of the wellness of all staff, I've described that to you. It is crucially important that our folks are well on the inside so that they can be well in the outside in their interaction with our community. Developing a mid-range plan and a longer-range strategy for non-criminal enforcement programs. You saw this at the beginning of last fiscal year, of this current fiscal year, rather. And just due to some changes that we've had administratively at the decision-making levels in our department, we had to carry that a little bit longer than I would like to, but I hope to have something for you during this coming fiscal year. And then furthering our public accountability initiative, we want to make sure that there are plenty of tools that are facing our community that provides a great amount of transparency for our department. That includes crime data, RIPA reporting, community feedback on service, technology, accountability. And then one of the things that's really important to me to provide to our department as well as our community is a 5-year strategic plan, looking forward at how we plan for the succession within our department, for the leadership ascension of some of our personnel who are really hungry to take charge within the department, and to provide for some future plans. This business, the policing business, is constantly evolving, so we really need to stay ahead of the curve. Okay, next slide. And I think that'll do it for me. I'm going to hand it off to our team to handle Public Works.
Hello, everyone. Azalea Mitch, Public Works Director. We are the last department, so bear with us, and I will try to be brief. We are a group of diverse individuals and professionals. If you can go to the next slide, Judy, thank you. And we are here to maintain the public infrastructure. So that includes all of our streets, roads, traffic signals, street lights, stormwater when it rains, our water system, which we provide water to approximately half of the residents in the city, and parks, trees, facilities, and all our vehicles. So everything that you see out there that is public, we are in charge of maintaining it and improving it. We also have a critical role in emergency response. So we've weathered this past winter rather well, and that's due to a lot of really great work from our team. In terms of our operating budget, we have revenues around $25 million with expenditures about 35 as well. We are not proposing any increases in employees or service level enhancements. And we are sponsored by and funded through many special revenue funds. We are a group of 72 full-time equivalents, 3 divisions. Our engineering division focuses on capital project delivery. So we have a key role working with every department on planning and executing the capital improvements. We oversee utilities, so water and stormwater, and also Bedwell Bayfront Park, which is a landfill. And we provide a key role in development services as it relates to reviews and making sure that the right-of-way is improved when a new development comes in. Our transportation division has a key role in planning and really looking at safety of our transportation network, a focus on multimodal, making sure that our infrastructure is safe for all modes. They manage our traffic signals, our operations, and also have a role in delivering capital projects. Our maintenance division, these are our crews. These are the staff that you probably see more often than us engineers, and they really are the face of Public Works. You see them in our trucks wearing very bright chartreuse shirts, but they are responsible for maintaining the day-to-day operations, and also to respond during emergencies. They are on standby during the off hours and weekends. In terms of accomplishments this current fiscal year, we have continued to maintain the city's infrastructure and continued to provide these critical services to Menlo Park's residents. A big accomplishment for us internally as it relates to practices, best practices, and efficiencies. We received accreditation from the American Public Works Association, which was a multi-year effort that included many people in our department. So that was a rather big accomplishment. In terms of construction, we have been busy. You see the disruption, and at the end, you see the improvement. So we've been very busy working with our partners here, Library and Community Services, completing the Bellhaven Community Center, and still working through a few projects there. We are currently under construction at Willow Oaks Park and the Burgess Playground. We have Burgess Playground will actually be completed this weekend. Bedwell Bayfront Park, things that you cannot see, but we operate a gas and leachate system, and we were very busy last year making improvements to that system so that it operates well and contains the gases that system produces. We are also have been working very closely with the community on the Middle Avenue Complete Streets pilot project. So we have had quite a few community meetings, commission meetings, and council meetings, and have direction to make that pilot permanent. And we also are wrapping up construction of the Bellhaven Traffic Calming Project. On the planning front, we were very busy embarking on the adoption of the Vision Zero Action Plan. This is another huge accomplishment for the city. We have a rather large goal, making sure that we do not have serious and fatal collisions, injuries that result from our transportation network. And we will be busy implementing that action plan. In terms of development services, we work very closely with community development on supporting the reviews and coordination of all the development in the city. And in terms of maintenance, we've been very busy planting trees, and also we prepared well last year to make sure that we were ready for any storm this year. We were anticipating large wet weather events, but we were very fortunate that we've weathered them well. In terms of this coming fiscal year, we will continue construction. We have a clean energy infrastructure project at the Bellhaven Community Center that we will be completing. We will be upgrading our water system. We will be installing automated water meters. This means that every customer will be able to see their consumption live, and we will be able to collect those readings much more accurately. We are continuing to pave and maintain our roads. That's actually one of our largest assets, to maintain them in good condition. We do have a stormwater upgrade project that we've been working on for close to 2 years now, and that's the replacement of the Chrysler pump station, which we'll continue to work on. And we will continue to work with our city manager's office and sustainability team to make sure that this campus is really and expands our solar arrays, and we continue to install electric vehicle charging facilities. On the design effort, we have a rather large project, and that focuses on sea level rise protection. We will begin the design of a rather large levee protection project, our Safer Bay project. And then on Middle Avenue, the intent there is based on the community support and council's guidance is to pave Middle and make the bicycle installation permanent. As it relates to planning, we have quite a few funding studies that we need to embark on, and those focus on addressing the unfunded needs that we have as it relates to stormwater management, and also the future needs and emergency needs of our water system. So we are the lead department that is responsible for executing the capital improvement program. We had a very good study session with council I think it was last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. But the capital program consists of everything that you see. We propose, we assess, we evaluate, and we propose improvements as it relates to maintaining the infrastructure, but also improving it for future needs. And our CIP, our plan consists of 7 project categories and many ongoing programs that really just focus on keeping these facilities well maintained. The CIP is funded through quite a few different sources. The general fund, we have averaged $4.7 million that have been transferred into the CIP over the past 5 years on an annual basis. We do have an enterprise fund, water, so every dollar that we collect from water services has to go to improving and maintaining the water system. We rely on grants and many special revenue funds. So for this coming fiscal year, we are proposing to execute 64 projects. Our proposed budget is $97 million. A third of that funding is focused on our traffic and transportation. Large project there is the middle undercrossing, the bike ped undercrossing near Alma and El Camino at Middle. We have about 16% of that funding going towards streets and sidewalks and water, stormwater, parks, our city buildings, and the environment. In terms of funding sources, about half of that funding comes from special revenues, $32 million from the general capital fund, 15 from our water fund, and then any grants that we are successful in obtaining. That is the overview of our proposed fiscal year as it relates to the 5-year outlook. We do have quite a few efforts coming that will be significant for the department. These focus on transportation, the Middle Avenue undercrossing, also quiet zone, and the planning that will need to go so that we can actually embark on grade separation. We have a stormwater funding assessment that we have to start. We will continue to work on the planning and design of the Safer Bay project, and we'll need to evaluate how to fund water storage for a section of the city. So we have a busy five years ahead. And with that, I will pass it back to Mr. Hansen.
Thank you. I think that's some very exciting things that are happening across the city and all the departments, and some big things coming up. So next steps in the budget process, the proposed budget is now available online at menlopark.gov/budget. You can click on the link on the city's website to access that proposed budget. The 2 other items are the public hearing that's going to be on June 11th, as well as the budget adoption scheduled for June 25th. This evening's presentation, led by the city staff, represents the kickoff of the budget review, feedback, and approval process. Residents have opportunity to provide feedback to the city council on the proposed budget throughout the month of June through email submission or through the public comment at the budget public hearing at the June 11th city council meeting and at the budget adoption business item on the June 25th city council meeting. You can do that either through attending in person and making a public comment card, or you can access the meeting in real time via Zoom and make a comment there as well. And at that time, I want to turn the presentation back to our city manager to finalize and open for questions.
Great. Thank you, Jared, and thank you to the team that presented this evening. I hope everybody found it informative. And so at this point in time, we do have opportunity for some questions and responses. So with that, I think the city clerk, Judy Heron, will help us in facilitating either any questions in person or online.
Thank you, City Manager Murphy. So yes, we are going to open the floor now to questions from the public. We'll start with those that are in person. Ask you that we'll be using that podium over there to my left. For our Zoom participants, we will go to you following our questions from in person. Please do remember that we are trying to conclude by 7:30, and we want to be able to hear from everyone that wishes to ask questions. So with that, I will ask anyone who is in person to go ahead and line up by the podium and feel free to address staff. Thank you.
So I'm Lynn Bramlett, District 3 resident. I'm just curious about Azalea Mitch, is that correct? Okay, pleasure to meet you. Where is the section of the city where we're going to be putting the water storage?
So this is actually a multifaceted approach. We've been working on emergency supplies, so building groundwater wells. So we actually have a well at our corporation yard. For storage, we are actually evaluating SRI right across from us to see if we can negotiate a location for an underground storage tank.
Thank you, Lynn. Are there any further in-person questions? Perfect.
I think I missed the follow-up. The area to be served, is that what you asked as well? Oh. That is our current location.
Hi, Catherine Dumont, District 3. I had a question on the police budget on the programs. I wondered if find my notes, if the program included setting up an audit trail for the flock camera program, and so in order to safeguard the privacy and protect constitutionally allowed activities such as protests and things like that. So I was interested in what part of if that budget was including the program around that. It was a general reference, but I wasn't sure if that was included. Thanks.
Right. So if I may, we do not have a specifically budgeted amount for doing the auditing and running the training program that will be needed for the implementation of the flock camera system. But the reassurance that I can give you is that we already have existing in our quarterly reports on a regular basis, because we have been using mobile license plate readers for 10 years. We do regular audits that will be produced quarterly in those quarterly reports that we issue to council. In addition to that, we will be doing regular audits of the newer, larger system, the flock database system. We actually will be utilizing the same process that our partners across the border in Atherton have been using, which is Atherton has another agency to do the independent audit of their license plate reader camera system. They actually use Menlo Park PD to audit their system, and we would be in turn asking Atherton to do an independent audit of ours on a regular basis to make sure that we're staying accountable. And then what I can assure you in terms of policy and training, there'll be some strict prohibitions on what these cameras can be used for and not used for, and anything that doesn't involve an immediate public safety matter or some type of criminal law investigation would not be an allowable use of our LPR system. So in terms of protests and other things that we would typically, if they are peaceful protests, we would not be doing anything other than monitoring, like visually monitoring from an officer standpoint, those types of activities. We wouldn't be changing any of our processes with regard to the assets that we now have with license plate readers, unless there was a crime that needed to be investigated or some other immediate public safety matter.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, I will go to our virtual Zoom attendees. If you'd like to raise your hand at this time, I'll start with Dina Levin.
Hello, good evening to us city staff, and thanks so much for all of the difficult work that goes into crunching all the numbers to be able to share the budget information. I have a couple questions, and sorry, I did not hear the entire presentation. And hang on, I'm sorry, that's a phone call that I will take when I'm not giving a comment here. The two questions I have is, was there any mention of any staff recommendations about things to do to close the 800 and whatever $1,000 deficit? And the second thing is regarding housing and the costs for affordable housing, and is there was there any mention about where funding will be coming from the budget for what the city's commitment to affordable housing in our housing element will be? And those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I can take a stab at the first one. Currently, what we have done citywide, every single department has taken a hard look at their expenses, and really we promoted efficiency where possible and generated expenditure savings, and also looked at areas where we could potentially reduce expenses this year in our budgets while maintaining services and staffing. So that's been our initial approach to actually reducing the deficit. When this goes to the City Council during the public hearing on June 11th, staff will detail a little more about how to fund that deficit, and it could include the use of reserve funding as well. And then I'll pass it off to Ms. Chow.
Thank you, Ms. Levin, for the question regarding funding sources for the implementation of affordable housing programs. So I think it's in a couple of different pieces. So part of our operating budget in community development, we have set aside some funding for contract services to work on some of the implementation programs. One being we do support 0.2 FTE through HART. And so they are assisting us with the preparation of an anti-displacement strategy. We also have set aside funds for consulting services for the preparation of a Nexus study, which would help support our BMR implementation program. We use our BMR funds, as I mentioned earlier, for the support of our NOFA, so the Notice of Funding Availability. I did highlight, though, that we do not anticipate receiving any BMR funds this current fiscal year, so we'll be relying on our existing funds. The City Council has made a number of commitments, as I mentioned, about 8 million last year. We still have a few kind of commitments, but funding agreements that will be coming forward to the City Council, and then the remaining funds in our BMR program, we can assess on how best to use that through a NOFA or some other implementation of our housing element. So, and I know there's been conversations about use of the Community Amenities Fund in the Bayfront area for support of affordable housing programs. So I think there's a couple of different ways that we're addressing it now, and certainly if there are programs that rise to the top from implementation, we can address that through additional funding in mid-year. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more hand up online. And that's Pam Jones. Pam, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, staff, for the presentation. And I don't know if I've just listened to a lot of these or you've just made it so so simple to understand, but I really appreciate that. I also just have I have two things. A comment about using the BMR funds for the amenities fund from District 1 for the below market housing that I'm concerned that that would be money from that was supposed to go to our community for an amenity would be used for apartments that when the BMRs are built, they're open to everybody on the peninsula, whomever can submitted application. So I think it's important to be cautious about how that money is considering being used. On the other hand, I do want to say that I was quite impressed with the new stop sign that's on the corner of Hamilton and Chilco on the west side. As I stop at the at that corner, I couldn't help but see that sign. And so because it is new and so bright, I'm hoping that it will encourage people, or at least remind people, to stop at that intersection. So I really appreciate that you got that in before trying to finish up all the other stuff with the traffic calming in Bellhaven. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other hands online? Okay, City Manager Murphy, I think that's all of our questions for this evening.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to those that had some questions this evening in person, online. I know that there's more to come as more detailed information gets released as we move forward with the city council meetings in June. So on June 11th and June 25th. I'll also put in a plug for what's going to be a special city council meeting that we're targeting for June 18th, and that's on the city's environmental justice and safety element. And I know over time there's been some inquiries about the funding related to some of those initiatives, and we're going to most likely focus that discussion as part of that special meeting as well. So we didn't highlight that this evening, but I'll just mention that. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody again. The presentation is online. The video from tonight's proceedings will also be posted shortly. When we come back for the full city council, we won't be repeating this presentation. So that's why it's important that we're recording it. We'll be doing a more a shorter presentation, not necessarily by department, but each of the department representatives will be there to field any questions that may come up after this evening based off what they said tonight. So again, thank you and have a good evening.